Okay, everybody, thank you for joining us. We have a lot of new faces on because I know this is a big topic that we're talking about, and I've invited everybody to join. I know people from Amy's team are on as well, but this is our weekly Team Relentless call that I have always opened up to the public, and I really try to, just share relatable stories so that people, whether they're coaches or not, can understand what coaching has done for people like Amy and myself's lives. Because so many people look at us from the outside world, and all they hear is fitness and Shakeology, and they don't really understand the deep meaning that Shakeology and fitness can bring into our lives, and the changes that it can have, and the impact that it has not only on our lives but other people. So I wanted to ask Amy to speak because I made the decision to get sober back in October, and I followed her journey. There's a couple top coaches that have talked about their sobriety, and I was always in awe of what they did, and I just never thought it was possible. And they did give me hope. And when I decided to make the decision, it made it much easier knowing that there was other people out there in our network that had made the same decision. And it wasn't until I decided to get sober and share it publicly to hold myself accountable, just like I did with my journey when I started 5 years ago as a coach, did I realize how many other people could connect with me, and how many people out there needed somebody to give them a reminder of, that addiction is real and that it's difficult, but it can be done. It's no different than people's addiction to food or addiction to, maybe laziness. And so I've, seen and heard so many people that have reached out to me, and names keep popping up, and one of them was Amy, over and over and over again. That Amy and myself have been huge inspirations to people, whether they were just starting their sobriety journey, or they knew that there was now extra people. And the funny thing to me was I had never known any sober people. I really thought that, like, who doesn't drink, who doesn't party? And now I have so many sober sisters and so many friends, and now inspiring people along the way has made me stay on this journey, because I don't want to fail myself, and I also want other people to realize it's real and that you can have fun and be fun, and share your story along with fitness and be an inspiration. So I asked her to share her story so that other people could hear it. And also, we're going to open up to questions at the end, and kind of, and if any of you, because I know several of you have jumped on that also have made the decision to get sober. So if you have any tips, please share away, because, we all have maybe the same goal in mind, but we have different, things that we've done to achieve them. And everybody's story has some inspiration. So before I turn it over to Amy, I do want to introduce her. She became a coach in 2011. She is a combined 15-star diamond coach in 3 business centers. She's hit Success Club 60 plus months consecutively. So that means that something's been non-negotiable for her. She's been a member of CAB, which a lot of people don't understand how we work, but we have the Coach Advisory Board that has 8 members, and every 2 years they bring in 4 new people, and they're people that are a great voice for us as coaches, that our voice never goes unheard. And Christina Delgado, who is, if you're on our team, she's our upline. She's one of my best friends. She's served on CAB with Amy as well. She has hit Elite Top 10 for the 4th year in a row. And so I've always been in awe of somebody that has been that dedicated and that driven and that successful repeatedly. It's no mistake. She's hit Elite for the 5th year. She's in the Million Club. She's the founder of Team Set Your Soul on Fire. And she is, if you follow her, she's an amazing inspiration. She likes to travel. She's fun. And she has been sober for 8 years now. So I wanted her to share her story and the story of sobriety. So I'm going to mute myself and unmute her.
Thank you, Mindy, for that introduction. Hi, everybody. So, so I love Christina and I love her team. I was actually, when we nominate people for CAB every year, and I was like, I can only think of Christina. Like, it's the only person I nominated. So I was like, Christina Delgado just needs to replace me, because I love how outspoken she is, and her how she doesn't, she likes to be herself, and it's a great person to have as an upline coach. So let's see. So thank you so much again for having me on this call. I've never really gone on a Beachbody call and just talked about like sobriety and Beachbody. Like sobriety is a big part of my story, but I really only talk about it very I don't know, not that much, because I don't want to talk too much about it, because I want people to go to the program or someplace else to get sober. I don't want them thinking that like I'm going to cure them. But at the same time, I am very open with the fact that I'm sober. And I got sober April 7th, 2008, and I was 23 years old. And I'm about to turn 32. So what's funny is that as I'm approaching my 10-year mark next year, it's like I remember when I first got sober and I would see people with that much time, and I'd be like, oh my God, like I can't wait to have that much time. And then a person in the rooms who's older, like in her 70s, she'd be like, don't be in a rush to get those years, because that just means you're going to be 10 years older. And I was like, okay, you're right, I'm good. I'll just enjoy today. So, but I want to talk about how, like, a lot of the reasons why I became a coach was because of the program. And I actually wanted to know if you could just hold up your hand and hold it up. I'm just curious how many people here identify themselves as an alcoholic, because I want to know what kind of a group of people I'm talking to, or if these are just Beachbody coaches who just want to hear my story. So I'm just kind of curious if you could hold up your hand. I don't know, a lot of people are anonymous. And some people are just like sober and don't think that this is an addiction or that this is a disease. But I believe that it's a disease, and I believe that I was born with it. And it's pretty.
Your mic one is muted.
Sorry, that was distracting. So it's okay. I get squirrel moments, and so I've never talked to like coaches, and so I'm just going to share like a little bit of that, and then a little bit about Beachbody and how I believe that the two are the same. And so I got sober when I was 23, and I'm not going to really talk about too much about like what happened up until then, but I do believe that at 23 years old, I had lived more of a hard life than most people have ever had to live. And a lot of people would think like, oh, that's so young to get sober. But at the time I felt like I was super old and I felt like I was behind already, because there's a lot of people getting sober earlier on in life. So I was so ready, and I hit my rock bottom, and it was the first time that I ever wanted to quit. I mean, I had gone on like little hiatuses with drinking, but I would always use something else in place of it, like weed or, something else, some other drug or whatever. But alcohol it's killed a lot of people in my family. My mom is an alcoholic. I believe that everybody in my family has addictive issues. I just found out I have an estranged brother I don't talk to, and you guys probably don't even know I have a brother, but because I haven't talked to him in a long time, over 10 years. And my mom just told me that he got a DUI. I was like, not surprised, because like that's just what it does. Like it goes deep, and it goes into family genes. And I wanted to tell you guys, like, for me, like it was always about having fun. It was never, I didn't romanticize all the like weird stuff you romanticize when you're drinking, like, and you feel like you're so beautiful, and you feel like you're so confident, and you feel like it gives you like superpowers, where you feel like you can just like, do whatever you want and be whatever you want. And when I stopped drinking and I decided that I was done, it was after a really gnarly weekend where it all came kind of crashing down, which I believe was my higher power kind of giving me no way out, where the guy I was living with at the time was like, I hate you. You have 30 days to move out. My boss sat me down and was like, we're really worried about you. Like I was no calling, no showing. I'd come to work without sleeping, from being on benders for days. They were just really worried about me. And then my college had sent me like a letter in the mail saying I was failing out of college. And so I was on the verge of having to be homeless, jobless, and I've always supported myself since I was 18, so I never had like family to fall back on. So, and at this point, a lot of them had disowned me or whatever because I was such a wreck. So I was on my own, and so I was. This was the first time in my life where I was like, okay, you're either going to have to be homeless, or you're going to probably have to go get a job stripping, because if you really want to maintain the kind of money that you need to make to live, those are my only options. That's how I saw it. Either that or getting sober. And this is where, my friend comes in. There's a girl I worked with that I used to party with, and she had gotten sober, and she lived above the restaurant that I worked at. And so she was like 3 months sober, and I just remember her like bounding in with her like 3-month chip, and she was so happy, and she just looked so alive, and kind of like how you see people like with Beachbody, where they're just like, they're drinking their Shakeology, and they're just like, they want to tell everybody about it because it's so exciting, because they feel the best they've ever felt in a long time. And sometimes I was kind of like, ew, like she's so gross and happy. And I was not a happy person back then. And she was like riding her bike, and I was just like I didn't ride my bike. I didn't do anything active. Like my job, I lived for getting high and getting drunk. And I think at this time I was probably a size like 36, and I wear a size 27 now. So as you can imagine, I had the drinking body. I had a lot of beer in my system all the time, and I ate a lot of drive-through, and I didn't really think about that kind of stuff or care. But every so often I would stop drinking just to lose a little bit of weight, and then I'd go back to drinking again. But I could never stay longer than 3 months. I just remember like my 3 months was like the longest I could stay. And then I just remember that like I was just so done. And I called my friend, and I was like, I need to go to a meeting. I just knew what the answer was. I knew that if I wanted to get sober, the only way I could do it was in AA. And because that is how I've seen everybody that I know who have achieved long-term sobriety get sober and stay sober. And so a lot of people in AA, it's Alcoholics Anonymous. I've never been anonymous. I don't care. It's personally, I feel like it's my job and my duty to share. A lot of people in the program don't like it that I do that, but I don't care. Obviously, I do things the way I want, and I always have. So I'm not much of a rule follower. And so I went to that first meeting that night after I got off work, and I was hungover, and I met a girl, and she turned out to be my sponsor. And I went through the 12 steps with her, and I found a higher power, and I was able to, do amends with people that I've hurt and all that kind of stuff. And it was just really healing. The whole process was really healing. And so that's, to me, like the biggest difference between a dry drunk and somebody who actually goes through the personal development path of 12 steps and 12 traditions. Because you can stop drinking, but you still got to live with yourself, and you still got to live with all the shit you did when you were drinking, when you were drugging. And so what the 12 steps does is it's a personal development plan. Basically, it's the best one I've ever done, next to Tony, of course, and Tony Robbins. But, even Tony Robbins' father-in-law has been in their program for going on 30 years. So a lot of the stuff that Tony does, when I found out about that, I was like, duh, like it's all, he takes stuff from like Eastern philosophy and the big book. He's smart. He sees something that works, he researches it, and he sees how he can implement it into his program. So, that's not a mistake, or, I definitely believe that's a sign for me. And so what I did was that I went through the steps super quick because I wanted to feel good. I wanted to feel better. I wanted to stop thinking about alcohol. I wanted the obsession to go away, and it did the second that I finished the 12 steps. And so if you're somebody who is like trying to stay sober and you can't stop obsessing about it, and you can't stop thinking about it, and you just want to have one drink, like the 12 steps are designed to take away that obsession and to bring you to like peace. And the 12th step is the pay it forward piece. And I started doing that like after like being sober 2.5 months or 3 months. I started helping other women go through the steps. I've never once had a sponsee that didn't drink. Every single one of my sponsees have gone out. And I wanted to share that with you guys because it's really hard, I think, a lot of times for people with Beachbody, with trying to help people to build the business and to build, to have results with the products and the programs, and a lot of them quit. And that's where my philosophy comes with the business, and why I feel I've been so successful is because a lot of my philosophy that I use in the business, while a lot of coaches a lot of successful coaches may not understand my mindset. My mindset is that, you know, we're just here as coaches to give people the tools, just like I do when I help somebody try and get sober. And in my mind, if I'm trying to help somebody get sober and they relapse, they could die. With Beachbody, they just go back to their old ways, you know, and, you know, they could eat themselves to death or get diabetes or have a heart attack or whatever. But still, in my mind, it's still way worse if I have somebody who doesn't respond to the work they have to do with the steps. And it's the same kind of thing with the business. It's like, if they don't want to do the work, if they don't want to do the workouts, if they don't want to drink their Shakeology, if they don't want to follow the meal plan, if they don't want to show up for team calls, if they don't want to do the training, if they don't want to invite people, that's not my problem. It's the only thing that I have to do is I have to be there for them as a mentor and a support system and show them through leadership, which is leading from the front, being an example, and of course, lead as attraction. What is it, babe? Kevin. What's the saying in the program? Not attraction. Sorry. Yes, attraction rather than promotion, which is why I feel like I've been so successful with my social media, is that I really believe in attraction rather than promotion. And so a lot of the numbers you guys see, you know, the fact that like I'm on top all the freaking time, it's not because I'm trying to sell people things, it's because I'm attracting people to me. And I believe in that, and that's how I've built my business over the last 6 years. I also believe, you know, that if somebody wants this, they're going to do it and they're going to do the work. And that's the same with the program. It's like if somebody wants sobriety, if somebody wants to change their lives, they're the ones that have to do the work, and they're the ones that want to have to go out and do it. And it's the same with entrepreneurship and, you know, with Beachbody. And I could have sworn when I was a new coach that like Beachbody's system was based around the rooms, around AA, because it's the same exact system. It's like you go and you do a program, you do your personal growth, you do your personal development, and you get results, and then you pay it forward. And I used to tell my coach that. I used to be like, Liz, like I really think like this is like, I think Carl is in the program. Like I didn't know him back then because I was such a new coach. But now I know Carl, he's not in the program. But like, it's, you know, it's really funny because like, I was like, it's the same, it's the system that works. Like it's proven to work since, you know, since the 60s, I think the 50s, I think that's when AA was founded. Babe, when was AA founded? 50s? AA was founded in the 50s? 30s, a long time ago. And it's been proven to work. When one alcoholic helps another, then that's when they get to help each other because they see that if they can do it, I can do it too. And that's like my team like motto, like lately, like, well, you can do it, I can do it too. And we had our team retreat down here and we kept saying that on our team call, like, if you can do it, I can do it too. And all my girls that were here, they were saying it to the team, like, you guys, if we can do it, you can do it too. And it's the same thing. It's like, it's just one regular average Joe seeing another regular normal person doing extraordinary things in their life and seeing like, wow, they went from being like, in my case, a broke waitress, dropout, college dropout, to being like a six-figure earner and, you know, living on an island, traveling the world and paying off all of her student loan debt and like all of the amazing things I've done with Beachbody, having six-figure earners on my team that I've personally helped. You know, that's like what this is all about. It's about not just doing the bare minimum and getting results, but then having that pay it forward, and pay it forwardness. That's like, that it's like, that is not, it's not an option to not pay it forward. Like at this point in my Beachbody career, why even stay in the top 10? Why not just like relax? Like I could hit elite just from waking up in the morning at this point. Like it's not hard for me. Like it's so just ingrained in my DNA because I've been doing the 4 vital behaviors or 3 vital behaviors, and then the 4th came out for a really long time. At this point, it's like brushing my teeth. It's just like I live the Beachbody lifestyle, you know, and it's what makes me happy. And so like why continue to recruit the amount I recruit? Why continue to help as many people as I help? Why run the multiple challenge groups that I run every month? Why continue to live this way? Because I became a coach because it changed my life. I became a coach because Shakeology changed my life. The way getting sober changed my life. I always say that there were the 3 best decisions I ever made in my life was to get sober, to become a Beachbody coach, and to marry Kevin, of course. course. And those three things have shaped me into the person I am today and given me the life I have today. And I feel like they all came to me at the perfect time in my life to receive them. And I believe that like the second that Beachbody landed in my lap, I felt like God had like rolled out the red carpet for me and was like, here is, my gift to you. Now go and make shit happen. And I was like, okay. And I did, and it's like, I really feel that, everything happens for a reason. And the correlations that I saw with the way the program works and with the way Beachbody works was just like mind blowing to me. So, and before I found Beachbody, I had hit another bottom. I was sober at 23 and I found Beachbody at 24, 25. I became a coach at 25. So I found Beachbody at 25 and I hit another rock bottom in my health. I was breaking out in cystic acne and I was in so much pain, and I put on a lot of weight from moving to San Francisco and working for a delicious pizza chef. And I was just feeling like crap. I was crying every day, calling myself fat. I literally asked Kevin, do I look fat, like 20 times a day. It was so, even I annoy myself just thinking about how often I asked him that. Like that was like all I ever asked him. We had like zero sex life. Like life just sucked. We were living less than paycheck to paycheck. We couldn't afford anything. I was doing nothing but working and going to school. Like I had zero life. I had no life. And I was just at this point where I was just like, I just want to lose 15 pounds and feel better. And I got way more than I bargained for. I found my coach on Facebook and she's now one of my best friends. And, my coach stopped working the business about 2 years into my coaching journey. And I will say that it never changed the way I felt about Beachbody. It never changed the way I work my business. If anything, it gave me more ammunition to work my business, because that's how Team Set Your Soul on Fire was founded, because I felt like I had no upline support and no support with my coach. And so I branched off and started my own thing. And of course, Liz is still making great money off of me, and she's one of my best friends, but she's not somebody that I would go to for business advice at this point. She does not work the business. And so, but at the time she was what I needed, and I'll never forget that she was the person that introduced me, and I had an obligation, to her too, for all the things that she did to me early in my coaching career. When I did achieve Belize and she was working the business, she brought me to Belize on like all expenses paid trip. And that's what really opened my eyes to the idea of paying travel forward to my team and rewarding them with memories rather than things. And, it's just really been a really trippy ride, the way that my life has just turned out ever since getting sober. And it was like, it was almost like the second I got sober, like I could see life clearly again, and I could see all the synchronicities and see the way things were working for me and not against me, and how really everything that happens to us in our life is there's a plan, and you just got to go with it, and you just got to work really hard and just let the outcome happen. Because there's one thing I've always had a really strong belief system around is being controlling. And I always knew that if I ever tried to control the outcome, that it would be a really smaller, scaled down, pathetic version of what could really happen if I just let the universe provide and let the universe just like show me all the abundance that I can have. And so, yeah, I mean, when I found Liz, like all I wanted to do was just lose that 15 pounds. And I ended up becoming like the most confident, sexy person that I'd ever been in my entire life. And I was just like, I just wanted to tell everybody about Beachbody and everybody about Shakeology. And I was doing what coaches do, but I wasn't getting paid. And so of course she asked me like 10 times to be a coach before I finally said yes. And, I went all in, I went all in and just went for it. And because it was a dream job. I was like, wow, I could do this instead of waiting tables. Like that would be such a dream come true. And that was my first goal that I knocked out after 11 months. And I was like, whoa, now what should I do? I dropped out of college. I went all in with Beachbody. I decided that this was going to be my career. I retired my husband after another year. I didn't retire him. I fired his boss. We both worked very hard. If you want to retire your husband, you're going to dig a very shallow grave for him, because men need to work and they like to work. So he helps me where he's 50% of this business, 50% he takes care of me. He's actually cooking my ultimate reset dinner right now so that I can eat after I get off this call. We are a partnership, and I'm gonna cry. Beachbody has given us like the most amazing life and the most amazing relationship, and he has his own things that he loves and does now, and I've gotten to travel the world because of Beachbody, and it's changed everything. And so I just want you guys to know that, like, if you ever stop and doubt yourself, I just want you to know that, like, I've never doubted myself with this, and you can't doubt yourself. Like, you can't second guess this. This is real. This is, like, for me, this was the only opportunity I ever had to be rich, to be successful, to have those lives that you see on TV. You know, those HGTV lives, those reality TV lives, like this was my, like, I grew up watching like Real World and Road Rules and like MTV Cribs and shit. Like, I wanted that kind of life. I wanted to be able to travel the world. I didn't want to look at other people's lives and be envious. I wanted to have that life. I wanted to be the person who was living that life and been able to show people, like, look, like, I did it, and I'm a college dropout with you know, with a resume of restaurant jobs. Like, if I can do it, you can do it too. And it was one of the things that, you know, I've always been really attracted to people who have those kind of success stories, those people who don't have formal education and went out and just like created their own legacies. And that's what I've always wanted to be, you know. And it's actually interesting because I'm not going back to school, but I've started to take some certifications around nutrition because I'm really interested in it, and plant-based nutrition. And I have these reservations with it because, like, I don't want people to think that you have to be highly educated to be successful. Like, education starts with you. Like, you can teach yourself how to do anything. And I taught myself how to be successful with Beachbody. Nobody showed me how to do it. Nobody held my hand. Nobody gave me all the trainings. Nobody recognizes me except for Beachbody, of course. And they recognize me way too much. It's kind of embarrassing sometimes. And it's like, you know, like, if you want to be successful, like, you have to figure out why you want to be successful. And it can't just be, you know, to buy a house and buy a car and whatever. It has to run deep. And for me, you know, it's always been about leaving a legacy and being able to take care of my mom, who's also an alcoholic, and being able to, you know, retire her. I will be retiring her because she's 70 and she still teaches school, and I don't want her to be teaching school into her 80s. I had a substitute teacher once who was like in their late 80s, and it was just so sad, and I don't want that to be my mom. And so, you know, that's pretty much, you know, in a nutshell. There's so much more I could talk about, but I don't want to, like, I want to open it up for questions, because I'm like Carl. Like, if you ask me one question, I'll talk for like 10 minutes. I'm a lot like Carl in that sense, where it's like I get fired up. So, and I also wanted Mindy to have opportunity to like add anything, because I know sometimes people like to do that. So I hope that was what you wanted me to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, everybody knows my short story, and if not, then you can contact me later and hear my story. So I'm not going to share any of it. I have a question though, just hearing your story. Is that, like, I knew, you know, I've heard your story, I've heard you speak, I know where you evolved and how you came from it, but you said something, and I saw some of the comments where you said, I never doubted that I could do this. Is that confidence? Did that come from the moment you signed up as a coach because of you went through the 12 steps and built your confidence, or have you always had that confidence? Because, and I'm asking this because so many people that I talk to won't sign up as a coach, won't start a program, won't work the business because of lack of confidence, you know. And so I've been working on a plan to do a confidence club, you know, starting on the 15th. So I'd love to hear how your confidence evolved, because that seems to be the biggest struggle with amongst the majority of people.
Well, I do believe it's a mindset thing. I mean, my whole mindset is like, you know, I was a really gross, drunken crackhead, you know, coked out chick that had like nothing. And so everything above, like, getting sober was the hardest thing I ever did. And nothing else will ever be harder than that. And so I know that, like, if I get sober, I can do anything. And so that's my attitude. It's like, if I can get sober, I can do anything, you know? And so I just knew that, like, my higher power, like, had my back, and that if it was brought to me, then it was meant to be here for a reason, and I had to listen to it. And I kind of felt like I felt like if I didn't pursue Beachbody coaching and I didn't pursue Beachbody, that I was literally slamming the door in my higher power's face and being like, nope, I know better than you do. And then I would be totally shooting myself in the foot and screwing myself. That's how I really felt. I was really much more into spirituality in the program back then. I need to plug back into that kind of a mindset because I'm not like that right now. I'm a little bit more cynical these days that I've been sober longer. But I do believe that the confidence came from the programs. I did Insanity, and after 60 days of Insanity, I felt like I could freaking take on the world. I was like, that was another thing. It was that, okay, Insanity was like one of the hardest things I ever did. You know, now I can do Insanity like blindfolded, no problem, like bring it. But like, it was so freaking hard, and I was in school full time. I was working full time. I had a huge commute. I was an intern. I had a puppy. I was married, or I was in a relationship. We weren't married back then. I was so freaking busy with homework and all the shit that was going on in my life, and I still made time to do those Insanity workouts and to prep that 1,800 calories of food every day and to figure out the meal plan when I didn't know anything about meal plans. And I found the money to pay for Shakeology, even though I was a broke college kid. And I think that it was just the willingness, you know, and it's that willingness that we talk about in the program too. It's like, I always had that willingness when it came to something I want. And I saw somebody who had what I wanted, and I knew that if she could get those results, that I could get those results too. And so I feel like it's almost, I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I think it's a willingness thing. I think it's the ability for somebody to be willing to try something. I mean, with the 30-day money-back guarantee, it's excuses. Like, they can do it pretty much for 30 days, and if they don't like it, they can return it. So what is the excuse, you know? So it's, for me, I do believe that like the confidence comes from the willingness to actually try. And that is a mindset thing, you know. I don't know what goes on in people's lives that turn them into such victims and turns them into, you know, people who are so willing to give up and give in so easily. But I think that people are just not willing to do the work. And I do believe it's just like an overall instant gratification mindset. And I think it's an epidemic with these days in our society, you know, that people are just not willing to work hard for the things they want. They just want it like that. They think, go to school, get a degree, get the job. Go hire this person to teach me how to do this, get the results. Like, they don't know how much work it's going to take, and they're not willing to do the work that it takes to get it. So I think it's a character thing. I think it has to do with character building. I
agree. Does anybody have any questions? I know people had some questions about the belief of higher powers. I know that I was never religious, but I've always said that since I found Becky, that I believe it was the same thing, that I was just in the worst part of my life, and she came into my life at the right time, at the right place. I've always said the universe brought her to me, but since I've tapped into personal development, since I've gotten sober, since I've become, you know, working with the Tony Robbins life coach, going to Unleash the Power, I've now kind of become a lot more open to a higher power. And, you know, so I think one thing that I've heard through personal development, through my therapist, through Tony, is that, you know, your higher power is whatever you want it to be, but you just have to believe there's something out there that's, you know, driving you or pulling you or whatever. But what is your take on that? Because I did see a lot of comments about that and questions.
Well, I'm not religious. Some would say I'm like anti-religious. I just don't like I don't like what it's done. I don't like what's done in history. And I don't like the way people use it to build their businesses either. I'm going to be completely honest and open with that. But I do believe that all of us need to have a connection with a higher power, because you can't have control. You're not God, and you don't have control, and you're not the one in control and in charge. And, you know, the first step in Alcoholics Anonymous is admitting that you have a problem. And then the second one is like, are you willing to give it up basically to a higher power? Are you willing to let somebody else take reins because of, you know, and not be so self-obsessed? And a lot of alcoholics they are very selfish. And I don't think it's just alcoholics. I think people are just very selfish. But, you know, alcoholics like to make themselves feel special by saying these things. But I think that people in general are just selfish. And I think that they, you know, they want what's best for them. They're not willing to just let somebody else just like take them on this ride. And I really believe that like life should be like a wild ride. Like if it's too safe and it's too easy, then like you're living a very small life. And to me, that's scary. Like I would hate to be at the end of my life and look back and have played it safe and have nothing but regrets. Like to me, that's just like, it nauseates me to think about that. And my higher power, when I first got sober, they told me it could be like a doorknob or your cat, or like I was agnostic. I didn't like the word God. It took me a really long time to say that word. But they say in the program that God is just dog backwards. So just pretend like every time you're making a lot of noise. So every time you see a dog, that's actually God. And they would just all these like silly things to make you not feel so, you know, that's like a religious program, because they don't want to chase anybody away. But it is a very spiritual program. And I had to start praying. It was like the third step. My sponsor, humility is a huge part of the program too. Like she made me get on my knees in the middle of campus at University of Oregon in a crowded like college campus and pray, say the third step prayer with her out loud. And so they, you know, there's a lot of things that they break you of in the program too. Not everybody's like that. I had a very old school sponsor who was very by the book. A lot of sponsors aren't like that, but I needed that. She was the right person to come to because she made me do all this embarrassing shit because I thought I was too cool for school, and it was just so great for me. And my higher power was my grandpa, you know, like more like a guardian angel, and nature and like the universe, and like tapping into like energies and like just the stuff you can feel, you know, like those synchronicities, just those little whispers that you see. Like if you are listening, like you can see your higher power. If you're paying attention, like you can see it working in your life. If you're completely blinded to it, then you know, then you need to open up to it, whatever it is. That's what, when my life started to become freaking awesome, when I was just, was grateful 24/7. And gratitude has been a huge part of my success, because if you're not grateful where you are now, you're never going to be grateful when you're successful either, just so you guys know. So I always felt like every day was a gift. I've always like felt that way every single day, and just been really grateful, even when I was like new. And my pink cloud never left. They say that like when you get sober, you're on a pink cloud and eventually your pink cloud's going to pop. Well, mine never popped, because I just kept searching for more shit to make my life fucking awesome and to give me that, you know, that feeling of being able to do shit that most people don't ever get to do. And I chased that through adrenaline and through traveling and going to different countries and living in, you know, in an island around different culture. To me is so awesome and so uncomfortable. And that's where I love to be out of my comfort zone. I feel like all my growth happens when I'm out of my comfort zone. So I'm always finding different ways to get uncomfortable. When I get too comfortable, I get complacent and I get unhappy and I get miserable. And so that's when I throw myself into situations where I have to challenge myself to grow. Like I did Date with Destiny at this time last year with Tony Robbins. That was a huge growth spurt. Caused me to pay off all my debt this last year, over $80,000 in student loan debt in 1 year. That was just sitting there. I don't know why, but it was. And so, you know, if your thing is religion, like that's fine, but like you don't need to do that to be chosen, you know, or whatever. Like you don't need to be chosen by, you know, Jesus or God or whatever to be special. Like you're special because you're alive. And all I need you to do is just like realize that like you're here for a reason and that there's a purpose for you here. And if you don't like pay attention to that purpose, you're going to live a wasted life. And you're here on this call, and you're plugged into Beachbody for a reason. And whatever that reason may be and where that will lead you, you have to at least try. Because if you don't try and you don't give it, like for me, it was like a non-negotiable. I was going to make this work. Like bottom line, this was my dream job, complete and total freedom. helping people as for a living. That's like being of service is the best way to earn a living. You're constantly feeling fulfilled. Like this is, for me, was always a dream job. So, you know, that's definitely something personal. I don't believe that, like, I don't discuss my higher power that too much on a social media level. I don't think that I will show my butt in private parts and like talk shit and curse, but I will not talk about spirituality and religion on a public forum, because I just don't think it's a place for it. I think it's a personal relationship, and I feel everything that I have been given in my life because of my relationship with my higher power. I don't believe that it's my job to tell other people that they need to have my higher power if they want to be blessed, or if they want to live an amazing life, or if they want to be chosen or whatever. And so that is my belief system around that, and I don't think I've ever shared that on a Beachbody call. So take that with a grain of salt. Take it or leave it.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I know it's scary. I have a lot of the same views as you, and it is scary because, you know, especially when you're a public figure, and I've seen the people say, oh, we have a celebrity on here, you know, everybody quotes you, and so that's one thing that it's kind of, I'll give the statement kind of like the Beachbody, that we don't guarantee any success, you know.
Oh, I'll go call from Jeff Hill. Like if I've been reported, and people and I've other coaches who are more conservative have tattled on me, and trust me, like I get calls all the time, and Jeff Hill's awesome. Like he's not like you're in trouble, but he's like, Amy, or like Gelfand, like head of like, he's like the watchdog, compensation or whatever. Like every time he sees me, he's like, oh, I haven't gotten a call about you lately. And it's just because like people don't want to hear things that they don't agree with, you know, but at the same time, like, that's what makes us all unique and individual, and what makes the world go around is different people doing different things, and people are going to relate to you, you know, no matter what your belief system is. I just personally don't agree with using it to build a business.
I 100% agree. A lot of people use things to promote their business. And I saw a question here, and that was directed to you. It said, what would you say to someone who has yet to get challengers or form a team in 4 months? I kind of want to interject before I turn it over to you. Is that one thing that Amy's been saying, and I want to reiterate, is that she's herself, and that she's not always the popular vote of everybody, but she's herself. And when she's herself, she attracts those people to her. And there's a reason why she's remained in the top over and over and over again. So it's one thing that I see all the time too, that has a lot to do with the confidence too, is that you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. People are going to hate on you. People are going to talk about you. People are going to question you. People are not going to agree with you. But the thing is, be yourself, because you still can be successful. And at the end of the day, when you're happy with who you are and you stand in your own power with your own confidence, that's so much better than trying to please all the people that no matter what you did, you weren't going to please them anyways. You know, so here, you know, that's the thing, is that be yourself, and you're going to attract the right people. If you're looking at other people and trying to, you know, be like Amy, trying to be like somebody who uses religion to attract people, whatever your jam is, if that's not you and that's not your true vibe, you're not going to attract anybody. So those are my 2 cents. But Amy, do you have something that you want to say on that about somebody who's been, you know, going at it for 4 months and has yet to get anybody on board?
Well, I would definitely look at what you're doing. I mean, people didn't just come to me for a very long time. I don't think my brand even took off for like 3.5 years. But what I will say is that, you know, if it's been 4 months and you have yet to have any challengers or help anybody with Beachbody, I would definitely say that there's probably a limiting belief in there, and it has to do with your mindset, the way you look at, you know, there's some limiting belief living in your subconscious head that's preventing you from doing this. You're literally standing in your own way. A lot of times people don't hit Success Club because they don't want to bother people, so they don't message enough people. They don't invite people. They don't want to be that person. They don't want to bother people. They don't want to be that, you know, posting and bother and scroll and like all the pictures, and it's like me. And all it is just like complete self-obsession and ego and self-absorption, to the point where you will literally stand in your own way because you are so worried about what people are going to think about you. You are willing to sacrifice your own life and your own success just to protect the way people look at you, when in all actual reality, people judge you no matter whether you're successful or not. So, or whether you are trying to help them or not. So, you know, it's something I learned in high school. Like, I have always, oh my God, I have such embarrassing pictures my mom brought me, and I'm getting up the courage to post them. But, you know, like, I was always the weird freaking girl in school, and I was always just made fun of, and I didn't give a shit. And I was like, I loved it. And it was like, I thrived off of it. And so it's like, to be in Beachbody and to like have that same, like, recreate that same kind of relationship with like some people and like in the company is so funny to me, because I don't even think I'm that weird anymore. I think I'm pretty normal. But but it's like, I had that same reservation as a new coach, you guys, where I was trying to be, back then it was like about being like a platinum presenter, like a turbo girl. That was like the thing. Like, that was back when like Janelle Summers was really big, and Chalene Johnson and Christine Dwyer, like Bombshell Dynasty was just starting to rise up. And it was either you were a platinum presenter or you were a Bombshell Dynasty coach. And then there was like my coach, Barbie, my upline coach, who was very like herself and was a great leader to me. It's exactly who I needed to have in my upline, and showed me that I could be whoever I wanted. She would curse on team calls, just what I needed at the time, just like everything else. And I just remembered like trying to copy what everybody else was doing all the time. And I was just another cookie cutter coach. Like, there's nothing different about me. I was just trying to look like everybody else and do what everybody was doing. And then I reached this certain point where I was like, this is not fun anymore. I'm tired of copying other people. I've always been a unique person. I've always like walked to the beat of my own drum. I've always done everything different. I'm going to do this my way. And I just completely like threw everything that everybody was, I unfollowed every single coach I followed, and I just started doing things my way. And that's when I became successful. That's when I started to, you know, actually like rise up in the company and start to like get successful. And so I would look at a couple things if you're not being successful. I would look and see how much you're actually copying other people and not being yourself. You may be overthinking things. Are you sharing that connective tissue, that your story, you know, those things about you? I was on a call with one of my coaches today, and she has autoimmune disease, and she's a new mom, and she doesn't share anything about any of that ever. And I was like, you're missing an opportunity here to be able to share with people who are going through the same thing you're going through. And you have to be relatable, and you have to be willing to open up. And it's that vulnerability and that humility that I was given because of AA, that relentlessness to really just continue to humble myself all the freaking time and share about things I don't want to share about, but I share about anyway, because I know that it's going to help somebody. And that's like my job, you know? And so I would look at that. I would look at how many people you're actually talking to. A lot of times coaches think that they're working, and they're actually just scrolling and wasting their time and scrolling the news feed and not actually doing the behaviors that actually build the business, which is the people part of the business. You need to be having, you know, multiple. I tell my coaches you should be talking to more like 20 to 30 new people a day, expanding your network every day. You know, your whole business needs to be around people and building those relationships and following up with people and inviting them and making sure that they know that you're there, and being proof the product works. I'm huge on that aspect of Beachbody. If you're not getting results and you're just continuing to post and post and post and you're not getting results, you don't have before and after photos to share, at least in like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, then what are you doing? Like, that is what we do as coaches. We get results with the products, and we share our results, and that is what in turn inspires people, and we document our journey along the way. It's not about being perfect. It's just about sharing your journey. And if you're not getting results, you're not taking the meal plan seriously, you're not actually doing the fitness programs, and you're just creating excuse after excuse after excuse, guess what? You're attracting people who have excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse. And what you are living is what you're putting out there. And whether you think people notice or not, well, guess what? The universe is listening, and it's the one that's dictating your results based off of your actions. And if you don't believe in a higher power, that's probably why you're not getting results, because you do not see the correlation between, you know, what you're doing and what you're getting. Like, you get what you put out. So just remember that. If you want to get great results, put in hard work. That's just how it works. And it's not just in one area of your life. It's in every single area of your life. You're willing to get up and you're willing to do the work all day, every day to design and create the life of your dreams. So that's a mouthful.
Oh, that was perfect. Does anybody have any other questions, comments, or stories that they care to share? I know Candace is on. Did you want to share anything, Candace? I hate to put you on the spot, but I knew that you were getting on.
No, I don't have anything to add. I took so many notes, so thank you so much, Amy.
You're welcome.
Did anybody have any questions while we have her on? Nothing? Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Okay, go ahead, Brittany.
Question. So you mentioned that you shared your journey about your addiction, which affects you, definitely. But what about when you're dealing with something that involves other people, but it's still affecting you very emotionally, but you want to somehow use that to connect with other people who might be going through something similar, but you can't quite share without disclosing maybe other people in your life?
Can you share with me what it is?
Basically like an emotional affair with your spouse.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely not something that I can see like you wanting to talk about now. But because it's probably if you're going through it. But what you can do is you can share about the fact that, you know, that you can gain inspiration from it. You know, you can find different ways to kind of share how like life isn't perfect and how, you know, you're going through something personal. You don't have to say what it is all the time. You know, like I can't tell you how often I go through stuff that I don't really want to talk about on a public level, but I just use it to motivate others. And sometimes taking those issues we have in our life and using them as ammunition to help other people get through their issues helps. I don't know why helping people works. I don't know what it is about it, but if you can just figure out a way to use that to like conjure like more strength in your posts and give people more strength to be able to cope with things. I know that fitness is a great antidepressant coping mechanism. I know that nutrition is so important for moods and to be able to handle things with a cool head, and personal development, especially for something like that. I don't know if like, and this is where, you know, if you are a religious person or if you are a spiritual person, that being able to talk about how you get through hard times, how gratitude helps you, how prayer helps you, how whatever helps you. You know, it's maybe just sharing tips and tricks about how that you are getting through, how you've gotten through hard times. Maybe you can make it something that's past tense so that people don't know you're going through it right now, so that you can keep that private. You know, like we don't have to share every single private part in our lives. It actually took me years to actually even talk about my sobriety with Beachbody publicly, because I didn't know if it was going to hurt me or help me. But then I was just kind of like, fuck it. And so it ended up just being another thing, you know, but I would definitely, you know, use it as a way to, because obviously you're dealing with it, right? And so however you're dealing with it and however you're dealing with it in a way that you don't lose your freaking mind and kill somebody, I think that's definitely a way that you can help people online and help people that you're following with whatever it is. You don't need to share exactly what the top, like what it is. I hope that's making sense, because I mean, like I have gone through personal stuff. I mean, I've been married I've been with Kevin almost 10 years. To say we haven't gone through shit in the last 6 years with Beachbody would be a complete lie. So many couples fail in this company because their lives change so fast that they don't grow with their partners, and money changes people. And I would say that like we've had to work so hard on our relationship in order to not let that happen. And I haven't shared any of it really. None of it, you know? And so I just share what I know helps me to continue to be awesome, you know? And no matter what's going on in my life, I don't let it take over what I want for myself. Whatever's happening, it's happening. That doesn't change the fact that I still have my life to live, and I still need to make things happen for me, you know? And to be elite 5 years in a row, top 10, 4 years in a row, when you're going through stuff in your marriage, it's possible. So it's, you know, it's you can't have a marriage and it be perfect and be successful. Like that it's not real. Like there's no perfect relationships. There's no perfect marriage. There's no perfect anything. Everybody goes through their shit. So I will tell you that I have lived through a lot of things with mine, and I haven't shared any of it. So you don't have to. You get to choose what you share and what you don't share.
That, you know, one thing that I want to just interject too is that, you know, people are always like, I can't believe the level, Mindy, that you share of your life and how much you let people in. I could never do that. And I was the person who literally had my whole Facebook on lockdown. I was so worried about what people thought. It literally affected everything that I did. I overthought stuff. I lost sleep at night. And then it wasn't until I completed P90X, it wasn't until I had a support system that was so positive. It was really hard to be negative because you could just tell your negativity seeping out because everyone was so positive. And you hated yourself for it. But it wasn't until I dug deep into personal development with Craig Holiday and I attended my first Danny Johnson event that literally blew my mind, changed it, where I forgave myself. And I finally realized that I worried about people judging me because I was judging somebody else. And then I realized that what Tony Robbins says, that life isn't really, it's not happening to us. The things that are happening to us are gifts, and we need to find gratitude and see what these trials and tribulations that nobody's immune to, no matter what you do, but see it as a gift. And so it's the same thing, that our businesses can be ran whatever way you want. You can share as much or as little as you want. How it affects your business is really individual. I have a thing where I feel that I cannot project a life of perfection because people already compare themselves because of low confidence, and then the comparison game is just a thief of all good things. But I feel that just through trial and error is that when you share problems in the midst of it, you get too many opinions and too many people who want to sabotage it or want to take it over because they're heroes of the day. So the best thing is to make sure you're armed. I call personal development your flu shot for your mental, emotional, well-being. So when you're doing the right things, when you're working out, when you're showing yourself self-love, when you're surrounding yourself with positive people instead of pulling yourself back from that, when you're doing personal development, when you're doing all these things, you're pretty well equipped to make good judgment. When you have a mentor, when you have a higher power, you have the ability to know that there's a solution and finding the right resources to get it. And then once you've found that, if you feel that it's necessary to share because you feel that the 12th step of paying it forward, that sharing what you went through or sharing the solution will help people, then so be it. My husband and I separated last year, and I didn't tell anybody because he knew how it would affect the network, because I'd let them into our lives. We really were like a reality show, and I also didn't want anybody's opinion. So I waited till I was, I thought I had an answer, and I composed a post that literally for 6 weeks I composed in my head before I went out and told people. It was nobody's business. I didn't need anybody in my marriage. I didn't need anybody in our family dynamics. And the post that I posted was that please understand this is a family. There's children involved. And I thought it out. And so, because there's things that it was nobody's business whether we separated, but when you're a public figure and you've allowed people in your life, you kind of have to make the announcement. And so that was my call. I will say that I started being very open about the infidelity that my husband and I had been through before when we were married, and a lot of our problems. And I was just ready to share my story. And because I didn't give a fuck, and I still don't give a fuck. And I've drawn a huge crowd of people who would never do what I've done because they live with shame of really bad, choices, and they judge themselves, and they thought that man, if I'm this horrible of a person, how could I ever help anybody? And so I opened up a huge, audience to people who opened up to me, and I let myself be vulnerable, and it did for me build my business. However, going along with what Amy said, I didn't ask my husband permission to share these things that were his stories as well, and I am very lucky that he's forgiving, but it did affect him. And so I always say that lesson learned. I've seen a lot of couples grow. I learned the hard way. And so the thing is, if anybody's ever watched me and been like, man, you're successful, you're open, trust me, it didn't come without a lot of missed goals, a lot of fights, a lot of tears, a lot of mistakes, a lot of lessons learned, and families being drugged through. So the thing is, you have to kind of put feelers out, but you also have to respect the people that you love. But I do believe that you can Tony Robbins your story, and that means that you can feel like 95% of your life is shit, but you can talk about it 5% of your time and focus on 95% gratitude. So you can talk about it without having it be all about the bad stuff and this bad person and victim-wise, but you can talk about a story and come up with a solution, because other people out there, your story is not unique. There's people all around the world going through what you went through, and so you can give them that light of hope. And when you do help people, like Amy said, it really is healing, and it gives you something where you're not so self-absorbed, you're focusing on your problem. So that's just my 2 cents. Does anybody have any other questions?
I wasn't going to ask, but I'm going to ask. So I am newly sober I'm newly sober in my sobriety. I'm going on 90 days, but I still, leadership was my first event sober, and thankfully I had Mindy there, because I think it would have been a lot harder without her, and my mindset was just there. So Amy, if you have coaches who are newly sober, what are your suggestions when we go to big events? We have Dominican Republic coming up, and that gives me anxiety. My husband's like, don't you want to have a drink? I'm like, I can't. I can't just have one like you. And my mind is that I'm not going to drink, but then I think okay, maybe I could. And then I go back to, no, I can't. So, what advice do you have for somebody who does go to all these events where, everyone's drinking and everyone's partying and celebrating?
Well, I have some friends who are pretty high in the company who have some pretty embarrassing stories of them getting drunk at events and making complete fools of themselves in front of corporate. I won't say any names, but he shared his story at Summit where I spoke with Josh Spencer, and it was so, I loved his humility, and I would think about that first. You're going to something that is essentially work, the work event. Obviously I'm not your typical corporate person, but I do believe in my level of keeping myself together. And if I was to get drunk, I don't even know what I would do. That would be terrifying. Waking up the next morning out of a blackout at a Beachbody event where everybody has their phones and no. I feel like I spent the whole cruise waking up the next day deleting videos, and that's not what I want to be remembered for. I don't want to be party Melissa. That Melissa blacks out, and it's embarrassing. And that was a conversation Mindy and I had when I finally was because I had said several times, okay, I have to do it. And then I woke up out of my last blackout and I was like, I can't do this to my kids. Well, what's pretty interesting is that, I have some drinkers on my team, and I don't think they like me very much. But most of my team is interested in health, and they're nerdy health people. And my team retreat, one lady's in the program. She's been for 13 years. She's in my downline, and I didn't even know until she joined the team. And so that's great. And one of my elite coaches, she drinks, but she's a glass of wine type of drinker, and she's fine. And she can stop after that. But pretty much on my team retreat, nobody even wanted to drink. It wasn't, we were taking shots of wheatgrass and, drinking smoothies and working out. And I really feel if you're leading with health and vitality and that kind of stuff, you will eventually build a team of people who they don't need to drink. They don't want to drink. They're going to a Beachbody event to learn, to build a business, to they're focused, my team goes to on the cruise and they're trying to win, they are not trying to go there and party. I always confuses me when I go to Summit and I go to these events and people are partying and drinking. I just don't understand, because I'm this is a work thing. You're going here to learn how to be successful. Why are you partying? I do not understand. But that is that is just my mindset around it. And I actually, it's funny, on the cruise they had AA meetings, on the cruise, which I was actually going to host meetings while I was there, and then I chickened out because I am the top coach. And I was like, I don't want to share my story with all these coaches. They just want to take pictures of me. I was just like being really ornery. I was just like, they don't care about staying sober. I was worried that coaches were going to come to meetings just to like be able to like talk to me. And so I was like, this isn't going to work. And so I didn't do it. But then it turns out that there's actually meetings on the boat. And so what I would actually do is to equip yourself. So like you said, Mindy was with you. So if you know you're going on a trip where there's going to be drinking, I would connect with as many sober coaches as you can before you go and have a plan in place before you go there. So like there's plenty of Beachbody pages. You're a leader, like post in, leadership region group, or post somewhere before you go and connect with other people who don't drink and hang out with them while you're on these trips. You have the ability to create some really awesome relationships and friendships with other people on these trips that could be lifelong, and so I really recommend doing that. If it is like, and I can't relate to having a husband that drinks because my husband's in the program. We met in AA. So we are each other's support system. So it's like we both have that like kind of an attitude where we just like walk around and like can't believe what we're seeing. But it's like, I promise I'm not judging people. I do not judge people who drink. I actually I get angry snaps all the time from people who are like, you're so judgmental. All you do is make fun of people who drink. Well, I'm like, hello, you're not an alcoholic. You don't know what it's fucking like. That's what we do. We make fun of each other. That's like what we do, So like, it's not like I'm trying to like make fun of people, but I do have that support system with Kevin, and we do make light of it. And for something as terrible as alcoholism and drinking, we have to make light of it. When we have as many people that we have died from it, and friends that we've lost from it, and drugs and alcohol, you make light of it. And so I just try to not associate myself. I don't put myself in those situations. I go to bed early. I do all the workouts. I work. I go in my room, in my penthouse suite that Beachbody puts me in, and I work. And we take pictures, and we post them on Instagram, and like I work. I work all through the Beachbody trip. For me, the Success Club trip is not about a vacation. The Success Club trip for me is work. It always has been. So has Summit. It's always been work. My vacation is a top 10 trip. And so, you got to take yourself on a vacation. That's not the Success Club trip, especially if you're at leadership and stuff like that. At this point, you're at the point in your business where these trips are not about you anymore. They're about the new coach, and so look where you can reach out to new coaches and offer that support system maybe to new coaches, and you can help them stay sober. That might be a way for you to stay sober, is to be that person to people who are trying to stay sober on these trips, and put together, a group. I've had coaches reach out to me like, are there any Beachbody sober groups? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. Like there could be, we could very much make one, and there could be a place for people to gather who are sober at events, because there obviously are a lot that we don't know about.
Yeah. Cool. That's really where I think Mindy and I both have really shifted and we've even, I don't want to say tag team, but we've given people on our teams like really hard feedback. Like, these aren't party trips. That's not what you go for. You go to learn, and yeah, some people let loose, but I appreciate your feedback. And as far as like the moment that I decided to get sober, it's crazy how many people I found in this business that I didn't know at all. But like people, I guess, that were following me were tagging them in my posts when I made the decision. And now I have like 10 people who I've never connected with that are sober. So it's really cool.
The biggest thing for me is like holding yourself accountable. Like, if anybody knows or comes for our team or knows our team, the biggest thing that attracted me to our team whenever I connected the first time I went to Miami in January of 2013 was like, they're party people. Like, that was my jam. And it was very scary because I associated every event with partying. And then it was scary to go public. But I will say that Becky and Christina and our team have been absolutely incredibly supportive. They're always, they don't make me feel bad. They don't make me feel uncomfortable. I've had to step away though from parties, and and I'm never judged, and they know I'm not judging them. We've had a 15-star diamond party for Becky, and they on the cruise ship they serve just orange juice and Sprite for Ryan and I. So the thing is, like, It comes with anything. And when you make a decision, own it and stand with it. And you're going to find the people who support you. And there's going to be people who don't. And those people that got to go, because they're not supporting the lifestyle that you want. You should never, and I'm not talking to Melissa because we talk about this all the time, but like to anybody watching, like you should never downgrade your expectations or your, what you want to fit somebody else's your comfort level. And holding yourself accountable is great. And like I just never had so many sober friends. Like I just, it's blowing me away. I'm like, oh my God, there's so many sober people. There always was. I just thought they were icky, weird people. And I realize now, and I always thought they were judging me, and I'm not judging people, but I do love to be around drunk people because it reminds me of how I looked and felt. And I have to realize too now that, as you were saying, Amy, that when you go to work, and that's the truth, because like, I have to look at the gratitude that I have for everyday life. Like I'm not living on an island or anything, but like I'm living my dream that I wanted. I live a good life. I don't need to escape from anything. So when I go on these trips, it's not about like blowing off steam and it's like, oh God, I got to get back to real life because my real life is fucking awesome. And so I don't need to black out. So it's really just changing your mentality. I feel, the other day I thought, why am I so overwhelmed with these, messages and the to-do list? And I thought I associated with it years ago when I worked every night. I always dreaded the next day. How many emails am I going to have? What do I have to do? And that dread. And now I'm like, oh, that's just old thinking. And I'm associating here. I'm like, I love what I do. I get up every morning. What I do, I love it. Having a to-do list is actually a good thing because that means I have purpose. And so it's just reprogramming the way you look at things. And so when you go on these trips, if you look at it as that every day is your vacation and this is your work, like, you can totally see it differently. And when you don't want to numb yourself out and not remember these trips and the times with the people that you have had the ability to change their lives. So it's really just a shift in mindset and identifying it with a different feeling or a different language, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I love Christina and Becky, but I would love to hang out with them, but I just think they would find me so boring. But I love Diesel Nation, and I flock to them. They're like, I love the energy, and I love the positivity and the family unit that they have, and Christina is one of my favorite people. But I can't drink. I can't. It's just like not something that I can do, and so it's not an option for me. It's just not an option. It's just not even something I think about. And I love, again, like you, Mindy, I love being around drunk people. I think it's fucking hilarious. I love it. It doesn't make me want to drink. That's the last thing it makes me want to do, but it's a great reminder of why I don't. And so I don't know, like, I've been sober almost 9 years. April's 9 years for me, you guys. So like, it's been a really long time since I've drank. And honestly, like, it's the last thing in the world that I would ever want to do at this point. I don't even eat meat anymore. Like, I don't even want to eat meat anymore. Like, I smoked. I was a 2-pack-a-day smoker, 1-pack-a-day smoker. I quit that when I was a year sober. I have a lot of vices that I've quit, and I've undone a lot of really bad attitude, anger issues. I was, I was a shitty person before I got sober. And I'm not perfect, and I'm not the best person now, but I'm much more comfortable with who I am. And so, if whoever you are or whatever you represent, just make sure that like you're all in with that. And if there's something that, you're not so sure about, I would really ask yourself, like, why? Like, why do you feel that you can't be more open with who you are? And why do you feel like you can't just share what you believe in and all those things? And why are you so afraid of what people think about you? What are these people? I said at the Miami Super Saturday last time I spoke, which by the way, I'm going to be speaking at Super Sunday again. Christina asked me again to come back for my top 10 this year. And I said, like, what is it about other people that you think that they have anything better to offer the world than you do? They have been in this life as long as you have. They don't know anything more than you do. We've all been going through the same life at the same time, not knowing anything about what life is. What is it that they have that's so amazing on life that you don't? They don't. Like, they're all going to die at the end of the day like you are. Why do you give a shit what they think? Nobody that you know today will be around 100 years from now. What does it freaking matter? Just do whatever you want to do, because the person sitting next to you does not have the answer and does not know anything better than you do, despite how much they think they do. They don't, because guess what? This is the first time they're doing life. It's just right along as you have. So if you're giving people this hold over you, really ask yourself, like, why you do that, and why do you put people up on these pedestals and put yourself down where you can't be that person, that voice to other people, yet you're letting these people control your life that don't even give a shit about you or even know who you are, you know? And that's one thing you should really ask yourself when it comes to your social media and when it comes to building your team and your businesses, is that why do you care so much about what strangers think about you? That's a really deep-seated issue if it is something that holds you back. Just think about that. Complex. Go.
Well, does anybody have anything else? We've been over an hour, and so I know that Kevin was making her food, and when you're in Ultimate Reset, you do want dinner. So yeah. So nothing else? All right. Well, I appreciate your time so much, and I know that what you shared is valuable on so many levels. So I appreciate it. Tell Kevin thanks for sharing his time with you, or your time. So, anything else? Anybody? Last comments? All right. I'm going to put up the recording. This is a long one, so it's going to take a while to upload, but I'll get the recording up today or tomorrow, or tonight or tomorrow. So thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Amy.